because we are doing the garden. Just turn the camera around. Just dug a bit of a vegetable patch there. All right, we've got all sorts going on. We've already got them started off over here. Nice veggies already, just a couple of days. So they're ready to go in now. Hey, who's that? Hi, Flat Earth Vegans. Hello. You'll maybe like this then, because we are doing vegan growing here. Hey. So my wife will have to remind me what we got. This is a particular type of morning glory. So they came up from sprouts just a couple of days ago. They're ready to go in the ground now. Down here, mang na, jam me that. Hey, do it, Yelena. All right. Down, we'll show you what we got.
อันนี้ผักบุ้ง
ผักบุ้ง yeah ผักบุ้ง
อันนี้น่าจะเป็นกวางตุ้ง
กวางตุ้งไม่รู้ what's กวางตุ้ง
ไม่รู้อะผักกาด
it's like a kind of lettuce
ไอ้เนี่ยกำลังปัดอยู่น่าจะเป็นโหระพา
basil and such
อันนี้ผักชีฝรั่ง
parsley is it ผักชีฝรั่ง yeah
อันนี้ตระกูลเดียวกัน แต่คนละพันธุ์
yeah lettuces, yeah. So yeah, we got a whole bunch of. I think we got rocket as well. Rocket. On we go. So that'll go in there. Anyway, how are you all doing? Hope you're not getting too down and out with all the stupid, ridiculous news on the mainstream media at the moment. Hi, Bristolian, the Bristolian lettuce bray. Natalie, hi. Oh, nice to see you. Hey. And the plain truth is this a dating stream? Oh yeah, getting dirty. Yeah, no, just getting, and it's nice, it's just, I love it. I love just getting the hands muddy and just, you can smell it, and it's just great. So yeah, obviously it's always good to prep, isn't it? But let me just turn this round. Vegans love gardening. Yeah, it's fantastic, isn't it? I was just saying, this, to be honest, I would happily, well, it is work. Obviously, you've got to work before you produce some produce, but that's the most satisfying work to me. And been in front of the computer for so long, just doing stuff that my arm is literally seizing up. I'm having some real problems with the shoulders. So it's like time to get out and do this stuff. So as far as Phuket's going, it's still locked off. You can't come in and out without doing, well, you can't come in unless you have been jabbed, and even then you still have to do a test, and it's the PCR test, it's not the saliva tests. And even lorry drivers now are kind of complaining because they might do a run where they've got to do several tests a week, and as they go across different provincial borders. Yeah, so it depends which province is considered a red province or not. So a lot of drivers are complaining of just getting sick and lots of pain from having up the nose tests all the time. So some minister today came out and said, they want to implement basically visas for people to stay here on a visa. They want to say that you've got to be jabbed before you can stay. But that's, the thing is, it's just, yeah. The thing is, it doesn't make any difference. Even if you're double jabbed, you still can't get in and out of Phuket easily. You still have to do a test, yeah? And so nothing's changed. All those people that, rushed to get vaccinated before so they could travel, it's just, so, it's not nice. So, yeah, I was discussing that with my wife, it's like, if she's like, what if it comes through? I know it's all talk at the moment. The thing is, they say these things, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to come into law, but if it was a requirement to come here on to have that, to be here on a visa, that's it. I'm taking my family somewhere else, and that would probably be England. At least there, I know my rights, but we'll see. It's these things take a while. Of course, they've had Phuket as this so-called sandbox project where to allow tourists in, so you could fly in directly into Phuket from abroad. Hi, Sandra. You could fly directly into Phuket if you'd done the double jabs and everything, but of course people haven't come. They just have, because it's no fun when you get here. Nothing's open. You can't go for a drink. You can't go for a haircut even. That's I'm just got this big mop on me, and so have all my kids, because harbour shops are closed and things like that. So so that hasn't worked out. So places like Koh Samui are starting to relax their regulations a bit more, because they basically they've realized that with the restrictions in place, then they can't it doesn't generate any money. The tourists don't come. Tourists are not interested in getting and testing again. Or having to put masks on when they go outside. So and there was also a bit of a news story that that basically, if any foreigners, obviously any foreigners that get involved in the current protests that are going on in Bangkok at the moment, anti-government protests, then they would be deported. So of course one has to be very careful what one says. We'll see. What's that? Oh, sorry, I'm just kind of having to put my glasses. They're all bust up. What was that? Hang on. Who's that? Ted? Yeah, Bristow. That's right, man. It's just going to go on and on. Most like us in Australia. Oh, hi, Shen. We were talking about this the other day, weren't we? And it's kind of. In fact, I saw a video today where some guy, I think it was in Australia, some guy getting arrested by the police, presumably for not wearing a mask, and then they had him in handcuffs, and he keeled over. That's right. It seems I wouldn't want to live there either. But this is the thing, you see. If you're driving along and you get stopped by the police for not wearing a seatbelt or something like that. Okay, there's you've broken a law or whatever, and so they don't have to stick you in handcuffs. They just issue you with a ticket, and you can still go to court and contest that ticket. So why the heck do police have to beat people up, and why are they doing this? To protect others and protect them from the so-called Rona. We all know this isn't about people's health. It's the opposite. But the thing is, why can't people see that? And that's the thing. Getting arrested doesn't that's not the be all and end all of it. But that's the thing. It can go. It's got to be processed. You have to be processed. So if you're getting apprehended violently for not wearing a mask, then the police are in the wrong. Surely they're assaulting you, when surely they should be ticketing you at the very most. What they're going to do then? Manhandle you? Then what? Take you to the station? Then what? If you're a danger to everyone else. Yeah, it's insane. So we all know that this is just giving the psychos the chance to be psychos. Yeah, it's 5K fine, is it? Yeah. Did he die? I think guy getting he was basically, they by the end of it they'd called out he was getting he had the heart thing, the defibrillator. They were using a defibrillator on him, so the body was just doing that as they were defibrillating, and so he looked pretty gone to me. Yeah, I mean a lot of people screaming and that. So this is it. It's just we damage and more deaths. And the thing is, it's really, it's tough on the girl. I was just talking to my daughter the other day. She, she likes learning. She enjoys intensive learning. I used to feel sorry for her when she was in this school that was really, really full on, but she really enjoyed it because she was learning a lot, or, the sciences and all those things. And now with the schools closed, they're getting so lethargic. And of course, you feel like you have to come up with stuff for them to do. They're getting into a habit of not being able to do anything because we can't really go anywhere, and it's just so demoralizing. And so this is very stressful, so the kids are at home all day, and my wife's kind of constantly cooking, and I'm having to go out and do things. So and it's not good. They're not getting stimulated, and of course there's only so much you can do when you've got to be with them and spend time with them, because you've got to work and things like that. So so Jen, he literally died at the hands of the police. Insane, huh? Insane. And he looked pretty young. He looked quite young. Funny watching the junior football, Chubby. Hi, Chummy. Really enjoying. It's Pragmatic. Really enjoying your comments that you've been leaving, and they are definitely food for thought. And I want to go into that a whole lot more. Because the whole man, when you can see what's going on, it's so clear, isn't it? And surely this is waking up a lot more people. There's a lot could change. A lot could change in the near future, for the better. We are under siege. Thanks, Pragmatic. And it's like, of course we all know that this is all of this truth seeking and seeing what's going on is because of you can't see what's going on outside and how we're influenced to it until you understand yourself, can you? So we've got this. To me, my own personal mission is to try and really clearly define the difference between consciousness, our existence, our being, that kind of that experiences and creates, but becoming an observer of consciousness and an observer of our own thoughts and how they are influenced. And to me, that's really important. And then we can learn to live with all kinds of things. We can learn to live with all kinds of suffering, and with all the negativity that people put out. Doesn't really affect you because you're not on that same kind of frequency, or beyond any kind of anything that is kind of on an egotistical level. It's especially in these times where we're all going through, and that's why I see it's also positive in many ways. I know, Leon, we were talking the other day about whether God wants us to find out about him or her, and that's the thing. It's frightening when you realize that there is this separation between thoughts, which are our kind of beliefs and all these other things, and the consciousness that connects us all. That's what makes us all very similar as well. So once you can see inside yourself and how you work, we understand that humans are all very similar. We're all having very unique, different experiences, and we're all, and maybe consciousness, our individual consciousness is working in different ways. So someone becomes a baker, or someone becomes a pilot, or someone becomes a teacher, or a mother, or whatever it might be. These are different directions that our consciousness might take us. Essentially we all operate on a very similar operating system, don't we? Once we have this awareness of how our own mind is working, how our own consciousness experiences this reality, what goes in and what comes out, and what we make of it, then we realize that that everyone experiences things in a very similar way. And so that's where we get this understanding that we are all one, although we're all very unique, and we should celebrate that uniqueness. We're all very much one in that sense that we suffer from the same kinds of mental ailments, as it were, you know. So and that's the thing when it comes to all of this wokeness, or waking up to the reality of where we are. The earth is, you know, and of course I think that there's great hope now if people are realizing and seeing the extent, you know, the control that the pharmaceutical industry has on entire countries and entire governments. Then you can more easily understand just how easy it is to deceive the entire world about anything you like, and that includes where we live, just by putting some pictures out there and getting people educated in a certain way. And that's funny, you know, that answers the question people often ask is, if flat earth is real, if the earth isn't a globe, why don't, you know, other countries like China or India or Japan dob in America or something for their fake moon landings? But that's the thing, it's just industry. We've watched industries being created. We know that, for example, the Rothschilds patented the PCR tests back in 2000 something, whether it was 15 or 16, I can't remember. But this is, of course, so people are profiteering from all of this. It's just an industry has been created by those with the means to do so, and that's exactly what the space industry is. It's just the communication industry, and it's worldwide, and it's a model that is picked up by all these countries. They join the club, and it's a brilliant way to fleece the population. And the same goes for anything in the military industrial complex. We understand that wars are created to sell machinery and weapons and things. So it's very few people influencing the entire world, and so at least that is becoming easier to see. Even though you might see stories on the mainstream media of someone in a hospital bed saying, "Oh, I wish I'd taken the vaccine. I'm going to die. You should take it." You know, the thing is, you can see those things for what they are, and you know that there's no real reporting going on. If you look into a story like that, and you just look into the details. How did that person's life end if they were in hospital? Then they will no doubt have been sedated and put on a ventilator and drugged up and not been able to. Yeah. Oh, that reminds me. I just went to the shops down the road here, and the lady at the shop was saying, "Well, people down the road, they've got the Rona, but of course they'd already been jabbed. They'd already had 2 jabs." She said, "Oh, you know, even though they had 2 jabs, they still got it, and the whole family's got it, and one's been sent off to a field hospital and the rest are staying at home." And I said, "Don't worry about it." I said, "Most people survive it anyway," and tried to just, it's always an opportunity. And so people are realizing now, because they're pushing the 3rd jab now, so people are starting to question it. You know, the Thais are, they're not that stupid. They're very obedient to an extent, but they do also realize when they're being had. So, they now are starting to realize amongst themselves that this push for a 3rd jab is just selling. It's just sales. It's just, and of course, the people controlling the testing and what have you. Yeah. So, anyway, I'm missing out. I'm sorry. There was a whole bunch of someone addressed me directly there. Just let me go back to it. Sorry, just a minute. What does that say? Beast power is difficult to understand because of systematic. Oops. Mercy confuses. Yes. What's that? Oh, Natalie Topter. That's a good. Right? Yeah, I do. Yeah, I need to get down there. I've got all sorts of pairs, but this is the one pair from England that I've made for my actual eyes. So, and I've been there's a truck that comes round from time to time, and they'll do your glasses for you, and it's much cheaper than the opticians. So I'm just waiting for this truck to come. The thing is, he comes round so quickly. You got to catch him before he disappears around the corner. He came around the other day, but didn't get out there in time. Hi Al. Oh great, we've got a nice little crowd in. Lovely to see you all. Okay. Sheep herder. Flat Earth vegans, I live by the law of attraction. We try to create. Yes, absolutely, isn't it? Yeah, and that's really interesting, isn't it? Because in a sense, there is this whole thing about free will there, but of course, that can also be entirely influenced by things, and so that's why I think it is really important, isn't it, to be an observer of consciousness and how our consciousness is affected by all these different things, by our thoughts. And I try to imagine consciousness as water, and so we hear things, we smell things, we see things, and they kind of create ripples in the water, which are kind of okay. We register them as senses, and that gives us so this water has a kind of sense of being. But then, of course, when we start to get frustrated or angry, or we enter into an argument and things like that, it changes our consciousness. So our consciousness becomes turgid and violent, kind of like water. If you start shaking a bottle up, then of course the water in it is not still anymore, and it's all. And that's when you get angry and you start reacting to things. Of course, your consciousness is then being polluted and kind of stirred up by the thoughts and all these things. So you see a news story like the ones I was talking about, where they're saying, foreigners are going to have to prove their COVID status or whatever to get visas. Well, that's just talk at the moment. There's no need to get all het up about that. Of course, it made me angry and it made me start making plans. But really, these things have yet to come to fruition. But of course, we have to be on our guard and maybe prepared to some extent. So yeah, the law of attraction is kind of I know what you're saying. When you're in touch with consciousness and you're not so distracted by the thoughts and beliefs and those distractions, then you can more easily go in the direction that your consciousness is better off going. I think So I was talking about this with some of the guys in our kind of Patreon hangout the other day, and how we end up kind of following a different path. You end up on a different frequency. So all of us that realize the Earth is not a spinning globe, I'm sure none of us have fallen for this Rona stuff. Whereas you've got those who are defending the globe, they're also defending everything else that they're being told, and they also believe that there's this deadly Rona that's going to and that they've kept that going for 2 years. So if you want any proof of just how easy it is to get the masses to go along with something, just look back at the past 2 years. The promises from politicians and the way the narrative has changed, as predicted by the so-called conspiracy theorists. So, and that's not to say, I told you so. It's a damn shame it really has worked out that way. But it's at the same time, it doesn't really give you any more confidence, because just how easily led other people are, and that's the most frightening thing about it, is because you'll get other people. All these situations give self-important people the opportunity to become even more self-important. Yeah. So sorry, let me just catch up with the chat a second. Machiavelli tells us eunuchs have a propensity for poisoning. Let's see, Space Force, yes, Space Force. Sorry. When you disarm the people, act out in different ways. Yes. Lots of Thai experts getting themselves. Yeah. Okay. Well, sorry, Ali. You talking when you say lots of Thai expats getting themselves jabbed? Do you mean Thais in Germany, where you are, or the UK getting jabbed? Yeah, that's the thing. The Thais have generally kind of, they've kind of fallen for it, really. Yes, that's okay. Uncommon sense. Yes, I know. Yes, not sales. You're saying not sales, eugenics. Yeah, and of course, I think it's a bit of both, isn't it? All these things, there's never just one thing going on, is there? Well, of course, that's the thing. The people, the testing makes money for sure. you know, and so do all these people down the line that are getting these shipments of gene altering shots delivered. And yeah, I'm sure most of you have probably seen the Klaus Schwab video where he's saying, hey, we've got to basically edit people's genes, and that will be the fourth industrial revolution. I mean, and admitting at the same time, you know, that there are legal and ethical problems that must be resolved in order. So yeah, of course, the way you resolve that is just to get anyone but yourselves to take responsibility and get people to do it voluntary. Yeah, but an eyeglass truck. Yeah. He comes around. It's this little van. I think they've got the machine in the back of the truck. Yeah. So yeah, everything is vibration. Absolutely. Yes, absolutely with that. Totally on board with that. Flat Earth vegans. Jacques, hello. Well said. Lots of political talk of mandates here in Canada, but no actual legislation written up yet. So, yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? You know, and I see that's the thing. You see, I think a lot of the time, even the police don't actually know what they're doing, and those that have thought about it and kind of they realize. I'm sure a lot of them realize now that they are overstepping, that they are breaking the law, and they are overstepping their legal rights or stepping on people's rights, and there will be repercussions. You know, if you've arrested someone for not wearing a mask and then you take them back to the station for processing, then, you know, what's going to happen then? So yeah, these and you know, with all these things, if you're a bit savvy, you can just flip it around. But of course, we're so used to just doing what they say. That's the frustrating thing about here, is because obviously I can't. Because if they want to keep me out of the country, they could, you know. But if I was in the UK and I wanted to stand up for my rights, I could, but I can't here. You know, that's the thing. Got to kind of play along and, you know, do the mask thing. Yeah. I mean, you know, it just wouldn't do my family any good if I was just got into trouble for it. Uncommon sense. What's that? I think I might have discovered something hidden in plain sight that's been staring at us forever. Some further research is required, but I will surely... Oh, wow. Okay, it sounds like you're onto something there, whatever it is. After my... Oh, okay, you're suspended at the moment. Right. Okay, we'll spend the next week just kind of brushing up, doing your research, and smack us with a big truth bomb. Uncommon sense. Looking forward to that one. Nice one. Jacques, my YouTube profile pic is a globe wearing a mask for the double. Okay. Yeah. Oh, dear. Resistant. Every interaction with others gives you a choice to do. Yes, absolutely. To do the right thing or wrong. It's all about what you... yes. Okay, good. Yeah, I think so. You're right. And like, you know, Flat Earth vegans are saying, you know, law of attraction. Yes, I definitely think those interactions that we have, and they can go either way. And obviously, sometimes I wanted to talk about this the other day, because talking about one of my former psychopath bosses, it was funny because he would come up with these plans to do things, basically to try and, you know, get a kind of result that he wanted to do, and it would almost be his own little mini psyop, you know. And of course he would have the newspaper that he could do this mini psyop with. He could actually provoke some kind of reaction. But of course, so what he would do is he would go into all these plans and think, well, okay, we're going to do this so that that person reacts like that, and then they'll do this and we'll do that, and then we'll get what we want. But of course, what always threw him off was people wouldn't react the way he expected. He would think of it only from his own perspective and how he might react, or how he would expect someone to react. But of course, that was the amusing thing. And what I still find very positive is that you can never really predict how people are really going to react. So it doesn't matter how much planning you do, how many ways you might have thought of that someone might react, which you can do to an extent, again, with that understanding that the human condition does have a certain pattern of thinking, but it still allows for a huge amount of vast, you know, uniqueness. That would always amuse me, because he would never get the results he wanted, and he would end up kind of like sometimes looking a bit silly, and of course, yeah, that's that's the way it goes. These are all lessons in life that we all have at different ages. So we're all at different stages, aren't we? Hello, Stephen. Hi, Nick. Hi, Simon. Okay. And David Banner. You won't like me when I'm angry. Hello, hello. Boomy. Thai expats, YouTubers that I've seen. Okay, what's that? Okay. Some even videoed it. Okay, all right. So, well, all right, getting jabbed up, yeah. Okay, they're in Thailand. Yeah, okay. Yeah, and it's funny, you see, seeing some of the threads on the expat forums here. Whenever there's a news story about a vaccine delay or something like that, then you'll you know, all these kind of resident expats, they chime in with their thing, and most of them, I would say, are of that mindset where they want the jab. They, you know, but they, you know, they think they're being clever by waiting for a European-made jab to come along rather than the Chinese one. And of course, that's what was going on in Thailand to start with. So, you know, and some people are even like, they're even going home to go and get their jab and then coming back, you know, and it's just like, wow. So yeah, lots of so unfortunately among the expat community here, or what I see of the expats online, most of them, you can't wait to get their arms stuck, and they think it's going to be some kind of saving grace. Yeah. So they even, you know, they don't understand it. All right, let's see. All right. What's my age? I'm 49. Yeah, and I'm very hot and sweaty at the moment because I've just been working in the garden. So yeah, I'm, you know, wrinkling with age. I'm getting there, like we all are. Yeah. Look a little older. Well, I'll tell you what, the last couple of years has been very, very stressful. Being back in the UK and being stuck there was very stressful. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, obviously just dealing with all this, yeah, it takes its toll on you. It does. Yeah. But yeah, the only thing I worry about is kind of, you know, popping off before I've given all my kids everything they should get out of life. You know, I've got a 4-year-old. She's coming up for 5. So, you know, it'd be nice to be around for her for another few years at least. You know, that's the only thing that's what I fear really, is I just want to make sure that I'm around long enough to be with my kids for long enough. But you know, so yeah, looking old, but not regretting that either. Nothing to worry about. That's the plan. Okay, getting there. Pragmatic. What's that? Pragmatic. If you leave ambiguity in legislation, then you inherit the pressure in reverse. Pressure to vaccinate others will turn into pressure to take it. Obviously, it is better to add ambiguity central. Yeah, that's true. I think that's the thing, isn't it? People that have gone and got the jab, they want other people to join the club as well. Then the snake is set upon itself. Yes. Okay. Oh, hello. Anyway, yeah, that's it, isn't it? We end up policing ourselves. It's, you know, eating our own tail, as it were. The snake's proverbial tail. What's that? Desert. Our collective vibration is colossal compared to these insectoid vampiric parasites. They will scatter soon, seeking another source. Keep swatting them away, people. Absolutely, isn't it? Yeah, and again, it's something I was discussing the other day with a couple of us. You know, it's an ongoing thing. It's an ongoing battle. There is no, to be honest, there is no end game. It's not all going to stop. This is perpetual madness, and unfortunately, that's another thing that we notice about humans is that we have this tendency to just fall into these black holes of craziness. So it's and I think that's the most important thing, is just teaching ourselves and, you know, and our kids to defend against this. It's constant. It's no different to being an animal in the jungle and having to be aware of all the predators around you. One day you're going to get eaten, or you're going to die of just not being able to fend for yourself anymore. It's just going to happen, and then the jungle devours you. It's no different. It's no different for us humans. And I suppose the problem is that people have got very comfortable lives a lot of the time, and so comfortable that I saw a news story about is it this guy? Who was the guy who did Top Gear? The Clarkson, whatever his name is, Jeremy. Is it Jeremy Clarkson? He did Top Gear for years, and then he made a farm, and people actually like travel for miles to go and see this guy at his farm shop or something. And yeah, so these are people with nothing else to do in their lives apart from idolize these people on TV. Leave them to it. Yeah, leave them to it. Resistant. That said, I do understand why it can be difficult when you have a family to care about. Right, sorry, I'm not sure what you said before then. Okay, I'm kind of going back now over the chats, and it's right, yeah, okay. So I hope others have seen that. Right, someone's talking to me. Jacquard, I still remember your reunion with your family after being stuck in the UK. That was epic. Oh, okay. Oh, thanks. Yeah, it was. Yeah, and of course, that was. To be honest, it was. In many ways, it was a beneficial thing. I mean, again, thank you so much, and you know, it really shows that we can come together as a community, and help each other out in times of need. But you know, being away from the family and being separated also. You know, it was hell. It really was hell. But then, having gone through that, I have a lot more peace in my life now, and a lot more appreciation for what I've got, and just being as a family together, and less fixated on making plans, because obviously they can completely go to pot at a moment's notice, which is what they did when I was in the UK. So there's a lot more acceptance now of. As I said, you know, consciousness. Our consciousness has a path. Our being, all of us have a path to follow, and we will learn things from that path as we go. So I suppose, you know, there's more acceptance, more surrender to that than I'm getting I don't know what I'm getting a warning about. So yeah, there's more peace, and more peace has come from that as a result. So and less of a desire to kind of make plans. Of course, I'm, you know, the planting the vegetables and stuff is prepping in a way, but that's, you know, that's okay, great. We're gonna have something to eat, and that's important. But beyond that, you know, we'll have to see how things go. So thank you for that. Right, who else have we got? All right, 80%. Renegade 1, 80% being waxed here in Sweden. Is that really true? Do you really believe the figures when they say 80%? 80% of what? The adult population, the entire population? I mean, sometimes, you know, to be honest, you know, if there are savvy people in the government that have, I think what they seem to have agreed to is to jab 70% of the population. So if this agreement is somehow woven into their contracts with the companies that they're buying the gene altering stuff from, or the saline solutions, then someone somewhere could just be making up those figures. You know, they can put out that number 80%, and it might be much less, but they're saying it. Okay, done and dusted. I think again, it's important to remember that in each government there are many different factions, and the so-called prime minister doesn't necessarily have total sway. Of course, he's got to give way to people like the science ministers and every single one of them. You look into any health minister or in any country, and of course the funding is there for lost the connection there for a second, but yeah, every single one of these. So, you know, things will change. These people will lose, or eventually they'll become discarded. And you know, I know some of them are, you know, Fauci's been around since the AIDS crisis and all that stuff, and doing. It's a model that works. Hello. Okay, I'm not sure what's wrong with the connection. I think I'm on the Wi-Fi. Yeah. So, sorry, let me just do more of these chats. Yeah, we like certainty. That's right, isn't it? We uncertainty. And I think that's the thing. You know, a lot of people will, you know, they rely on that kind of advice. you know, a lot of us would rather celebrate the uncertainty of life. You know, variety is the spice of life. And you can wake up one day and you never know what's going to happen. Something crazy and bizarre always happens every day. And things happen that, you know, someone comes around or you get a phone call, or it might be a job comes through or whatever it might be. There's a million things that can happen in a day. But a lot of people don't like that uncertainty, do they? So they would defend this false sense of security that they have from the certainty, and that can be in the diet. It can be, you know, the whole kind of consciousness thing we talk about here is, I mean, becoming detached from thoughts is, or being an observer of thoughts and not being swayed by thoughts and emotions and things like that, is as difficult as giving up habits like smoking. Yeah, you really have to put yourself through it. It's a challenge. It really is, because thoughts and beliefs and ideas and rituals, they become habitual to us, and we are creatures of habit. We really are. So I totally understand. A lot of people will face death with kind of, they'll have an easier time facing death than a certain death than uncertainty of life. It's amazing, but it's true. It's really true. And so that's the thing. You're wasting time trying to convert those kinds of people, because that scares them so much. They're just not ready to deal with it. Yeah, they're just not. So I know most of us are where we are now because we've been through some crazy stuff, and we've been determined to try and find some answers. And even if we don't have any real answers, or at least found out what the extent, we kind of understood more what we don't know, and that becomes easier to deal with, rather than kind of flaying about in a world of unknowns and trying to think that we should know something. I mean, so anyway, off on a tangent there, but. You see what I'm saying? It's kind of, you know, some people can't stand the uncertainty, whereas other people relish it. You know, if you're an adventurer, you relish the uncertainty. You don't mind. If you're habitual, then you'd rather go on the side of certainty, and that's where we often fall down and fall into these traps. Jacques, Tony Robbins got certainty and uncertainty, very basic human needs we have to satisfy, even if it is overall bad for us. Right, okay, yeah, that's right, yeah. Resistant, the one who sincerely seeks the truth is also the one who reveals it, the real Jesus, which also apply to other kinds of truth seeking. Oh, yeah, sure. You know, as long as you are seeking, you know, that's it. It doesn't matter what kind of direction you come in and the labels you use. That's simple truth. The simple truth is that we are born into this world that is full of illusion. We've got consciousness, which is a very similar experience for all of us humans. And then we've got all these other things, which the thoughts and everything, which basically can control us. And if we're not if we get lost in our thoughts, then we forget to be the observer. We get carried away with those thoughts, and we do these crazy things. But if we can observe these thoughts, then as they come in, or be awareness, I suppose that's really a nice way of putting it. As consciousness is awareness of your surroundings, and also awareness of what's going on inside your mind. And so awareness observes itself and observes the thoughts that go on in our body. And like breathing, for example, most of the time we don't think about our breathing, but the moment you start to observe it, then it's like you're not trying to control it, but it comes more under control, doesn't it? And of course, if we're getting frustrated and our breathing increases, but we don't think about that, we don't notice that half the time. But if you get into the habit of noticing the breathing and the emotions that go with it and the triggers, then we become less attached to them, and we get less carried away by them. And we become free. We then become free. We are free, because when you're just consciousness observing itself, being creative and existing, then you are free. But when you're being trapped, grabbed and carried away by these thoughts, then of course you are imprisoned by them, thoughts, beliefs, or whatever they are. So that's why I don't these anti-flat earthers that come along with their with their rhetoric and goading for debates and things like that. Doesn't bother me. I'm not interested in we're not operating on the same frequency. Yeah. So the Bristolian, they know how we like certainty, so they tried to get us to do. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I was thinking, of course, yeah, I see in the newspaper they're arguing about the health service and the NHS. Well, again, yeah, you're absolutely right, Leon. If you don't depend on it, then you don't worry about it. But it's, of course, all these people that are dependent on it. They must have this dependency. And the irony is that this push now is creating independence. More of us are becoming it's really forcing us, even though those of us that kind of that knew what was happening, that still hasn't maybe pushed us to the point where we become completely self-sufficient. I know, for example, sheep herder is someone who is self-sufficient. Yeah, so to get to that point, it's all very well kind of talking about this, that, and the other, but we still have to make that effort to become self-sufficient, and only then can you be really, really reliant upon yourself rather than others. Yeah. So, Pragmatic, if you try to copyright your thoughts, you'll find out who owns them. Good point. Yeah, every thought's probably been copywritten before. What do you think the prime mover is? Okay, a question. Yeah, this is it. I suppose the only thing I can say is really that is consciousness, isn't it? And that's something electrical, I suppose, in nature. It's something so. It's but movement is the key, isn't it? We have the breath, we have this movement of energy, this flow. There has to be that, and that's everywhere. That exists in everything, doesn't it? What is it? It's that connectivity that we are mostly unaware of. And that's funny, because when you talk about consciousness as awareness, awareness of what's, when you're really, observing the now, the feel of the wind on your skin, or the sound of the birds, the sun, and all these things, when you really have that awareness, as well as the awareness of your breath. What's funny is that you also become, because you then become an observer within yourself. Awareness or consciousness is its own observer. You kind of might think, well, okay, I'm observing consciousness and I'm observing my mind, but that's not like a second observer. Consciousness is its own observer. And maybe that's kind of, when you talk about the prime mover, and you could talk about the consciousness, whether it's a flower growing and expressing itself and wanting to be beautiful, that flower, and that is an expression of consciousness. And maybe, just maybe, like anyone that would do something and want to be recognized for it or appreciated for it, you do a piece of art, then it's nice if someone can appreciate that art. So, consciousness is kind of like it's creator, and it's also observing what it's creating, and it's creating in a multitude of different ways. So, and that's the thing, we become attached, don't we? You might be an artist, or you might be an engineer, or you might have a certain career, and I think it's a mistake to identify one's self as that. Yes, your consciousness, your individual consciousness might have taken you in that direction to be this, to have this skill, but that, if you identify it with that too much, and I'm thinking of, especially, for example, some of these anti-flat earth or flat earth denying pilots who identify very much with their ability to do the mathematical tricks that for whatever, reading maps and things like that. I know that when they come and attack us, they are suffering from this attachment to their own identity, and really what they are fighting, because they feel threatened. But then we already know that there's nothing to feel frightened about. You go past, you go through that go, and then you're no longer attached to that identity. So this is what a lot of the Globers are doing, is they're defending their identity, and their identity is attached to these beliefs and their ability to do them, the skills that they've developed over time to do these things, whether it's mathematics or the time they've invested in learning to memorize the particular, the story that goes with it. Well, my daughter playing peekaboo there. So yeah, I'm ranting. I really am. Sorry about that. Jack Weil, the Earth is a giant syringe with the flat disc at the edge of the plunger being pushed. Yeah. Oh dear. Yeah. The Bristolian, consciousness must be responsible for movement. A question mark. Consciousness must be responsible for movement. I suppose it is. It is movement. It's constantly. It's it's like electricity, isn't it? I mean, it moves. Whatever's generating it, who knows? It moves, but we don't necessarily know what it is. But it has to be moving, doesn't it? Does it? Does it cause movement? But it's life. It's there, isn't it? So the prime mover. I mean, man, I don't have the answers, only questions, but I really like the thought of that. It's just nice to just lie there and think about that. And that's something else that's, personally just become more comfortable with being alone with my own thoughts. Obviously that's being practiced over years, but more so recently, especially after being stuck in the UK, where I was, very much alone in silence for a lot of the time, and ultimately that's beneficial because, you have to deal with these emotions and these thoughts, and there are times when I was thumping the bed in frustration because I couldn't see a way to get back to my family, and I felt so bad that I'd left. Also I was thinking, what if the house gets burgled, this, that, or all sorts goes through your head, doesn't it? So there's that, dealing with those feelings of helplessness. Yeah. So, man, I've no idea if that even helps answer your question, Leon, but I like the question, and it's just nice to think about it, isn't it? Because we can all come up with different ideas, but it's ultimately I think that's what it is. Consciousness is there, and that is our being. That is what we are. That is our experience, our life experience. That's who we are, but it's not an identity that we should be attached to. And so the moment when we do become detached from those identities and from those beliefs, or what those thoughts and ideas and things, even our cultural upbringing that makes us feel as if we have some kind of identity, once we are detached from that, then we are free. It's really, and this is it. The freedom comes in that way. Hello. Yeah, lots of people watching at the moment. Yeah, do you want to say hello to everyone? Renegade 1, Bro Sanchez TV, YouTube, electromagnetic flow. Okay. Well, what's that about sextants? Oh, the sextant isn't biased. Welcome to Flat Earth Navigators. Yes, it's not biased. Yeah. Okay. I was wondering, in order to observe, there must. Yes. Bristolian or Leon, you were wondering, what is it? Where has it gone? In order to observe, there must be consciousness. Yes. And it's interesting because you then start to think, well, okay, I can observe consciousness. I can observe my own consciousness, the stillness or the roughness of, or the what's the word I'm looking for? If it becomes kind of disturbed, so you can see that. You can see the thoughts affecting consciousness, and so you can observe that. And so you would feel that there's something else other than consciousness and thoughts or the mind. But then it's kind of like, the way I kind of understand it is that consciousness is its own observer rather than there being something else. I might be wrong, but that's kind of, I went through that kind of thought process as well. Okay, I can observe my thoughts, I can observe consciousness observing my thoughts, and I can observe, so there must be something else that's observing these two things, consciousness and thoughts, or mind and consciousness. And it's kind of like, well, yeah, but it still comes back down to you being consciousness, and or what, if you want to call it, the prime mover, that flow. It's never stagnant, is it? So even when we reach a point of stillness, there's still movement, because there's still the breath, and the flow. So yeah. Seeing without an eye. Yeah. Pragmatic. You are a mover, primary and secondary age categorized. The question is of ambitions and rebellion. Yeah, nicely put. Yeah. And I think, those, that's the thing. You don't, taking what's called the middle path might sound boring. And like, suddenly you're okay. If you're detached from all these emotions and things, then that's boring. It's like, no. There's like you say, pragmatic. There's a whole different thing that opens up. There's this, if you want to call it the prime mover, you're more connected with that, and it's infinite. The are infinite. So that's, I think that's the thing, isn't it? We lead very, very segmented, blinkered lives most of the time, especially if we go along with what we're taught and brought up to believe and do. You can only do this, or you can, these jobs are for these types of people, what have you. That can be very blinkered. But the reality, the truth is that we live in a consciousness. The possibilities are infinite, and that's fantastic to have that realization. And infinitely surprising too. Yeah, there's no need to know, because then that would be boring too if you knew. Yeah, what's that, Sandra? Read Walter Russell's The Universal One, you may understand more. Okay. Man in the Mirror. Yeah. Okay. All right. Resistant. We are here to learn not to be unfair, but to be fair instead, not to do evil, but to do good instead. When people realize this, then we can begin to improve the world by improving. Yes, absolutely, resistant. Yes, isn't it? That's true. You. It's all very well saying, oh, you got to do this, you got to do that. It's like, no. You got to do this, you got to do that, and then other people will sort their own stuff out. You can't be going, the moment you start dictating. And I think another realization I had recently was, of course, about self-blame as well. I mean, of course, we often spend time blaming other people. We can do that very kind of consciously or subconsciously, end up blaming other people. And well, I'm, giving yourself this, oh, well, I'm better than that person because they did this and they did that. But there's also this understanding that, and even for, when it comes to self-forgiveness, you can understand in other people, for example, let's say someone did something very, very bad, but we also have to understand that that person at that time, whatever they didn't see any other option. It's not their fault. It's just where they were in their life path. Whatever they did will maybe be a cause of reflection and learning that it adds to this life experience. But you can't, no matter what someone does, whether it's mass murder, for example, there's some kind of understanding that whatever led that person to that point is maybe something that they just didn't have that awareness to control, and it's not their fault either. Of course, you can think of a situation and then you say, oh, but but we're all victims of doing things. Every single one of us, no matter who, has got skeletons in the closet and wishes that or regrets. And the thing is, we can't overcome those. And this comes down to maybe that kind of realization, if you talk to a Christian, for example, that's trying to tell you that Jesus loves you and forgives you for everything. Well, that's actually really difficult for most people to come to terms with. But you can't come to terms with it yourself until you've really, come to terms with the way other people are. So again, all these things that are affecting our lives right now, all of these restrictions and things like that, we kind of know that those people are in compromised positions. And for some of them, they don't see any other way. They can't see it any other way. It's just, but it will eventually be a learning curve for that person. Maybe it's 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line. Some of the things we might discuss here might not make any sense to some people. It might be complete gibberish. Some of the answers you give to some of these questions that, yeah, they won't. Some of them might ask a question, but they haven't got a clue what you mean when you reply. But they can't, because they haven't got to that point in their life, yeah, of being able to understand. Yeah, so it goes back to that question: what is the prime mover? Well, it's having an experience. Yeah. Oh, you're right. We don't have, what's that, Al? We don't have much control of body mechanics. Yes, that's true, isn't it? But again, isn't it interesting, the awareness, having the awareness of, for example, the breathing. And that's that's the thing. Try it. Just try it yourself. Try focusing on your breathing. Just try spending, I don't know, I bet if you've never done it before, I bet you can't even manage 5 minutes of being totally focused on your breathing. Your mind will wander. Thoughts will come into your head, and you'll forget that you're supposed to be focusing on your breathing, and you'll go off on your thoughts. And I know this because I've done it, and it's a constant thing, that's you. The more often you do it, the easier it is to stay focused. But you'll find, if you just try focusing on your breathing and nothing else for 5 minutes. Doesn't happen. But the point is not to try and stop thoughts. When if we're talking about meditation and stuff, thoughts come and go. The whole point is to allow them to come and go, and to recognize them, and then okay, I'm supposed to be focusing on my breathing. And it's just that, they will come, whatever thoughts they are, whether it's something that happened to you in the daytime or you've just gone off on one, they will happen, undoubtedly. It doesn't matter how hard you try and focus on your breathing, you will get lost in thought, and that's okay. But then it's when you realize that you've gone off on one, okay, I'm supposed to be focusing on my breathing, and then you come back to the breathing, and then you might be able to do that for 2 or 3 breaths, and then all of a sudden your thoughts have gone off again. And but the whole point is just to observe. Very rarely do we actually even observe that, and these bodily functions going on. So yes, you can observe, just I suppose becoming an observer of the bodily functions that take place with thoughts, the raise or lowering of heart rate, the blood pressure, the heat that you feel, the flushing or whatever in your body when you think, sometimes you suddenly a thought comes to you of something that you really regret, and you want to push it out of your mind, but actually you've just got to kind of deal with it. And unfortunately, they're terrifying. They are terrifying. Yeah. So Renegade One, I'm going to connect with you with my friend Linus. He is a great person. I hope you can be a guest and tell us about. Okay, people over here. Oh, well, thank you very much, Renegade One. That's very nice. My email is nick@stretchoutmedia.com. You can find that on the About page of the YouTube channel if you want. King Little King G and G says, yeah, okay, conflict aversion. Renegade One PC chat. Okay, thank you. Okay. Pragmatic. Okay. Consequences and environment are crucial to defining reasonable action. They do not exist in a vacuum. Yeah. I hope I don't miss any of these chats. So you're all saying some really heavy stuff here, man. Right. Good servant. Jesus is amazing. He changed my life completely. Okay. Do you still see Jesus as that person, or as the Jesus within? you know, or the fact that, you know, I get the story, and I get how, you know, this is the ultimate sacrifice that Jesus made, his own blood, you know. I'm, you know, and kind of, it's enthralling stuff, you know. So I don't have any bias either way. I think it's fascinating. You know, there are some very good lessons in life from the Bible, and, you know, I don't doubt the truth in it. It's just a case of being sure that one interprets it correctly, if you see what I mean. Yeah. Resistant. Be a good example for others by showing them what fairness really is. When you practiced it enough to master it to a certain high degree yourself, if you act fair, then others may be inspired. Yes, I think that's true, isn't it? That's all we can do. Yeah. We've all been through it, I'm sure. You know, you suddenly realize that the Earth's not a globe, and you want to tell everyone, and you start, oh, you're brainwashed, you're mind controlled, you don't understand. Well, yeah, maybe so, but the telling them doesn't help. It doesn't cheat, it just makes it worse. All you can do is just, I suppose, again, go through that stage and realize that, again, sheep herder brought it up the other day, you know, Noah's Ark. It's like, well, a lot of people are just not ready, and that's fine. You can't, you know, it's when it's your turn to wake up, then you woke up, and everything from then is going to be on your path of awakening, and it's only yours to have. Even though it's very similar, it is very, everyone's awakening is very, very similar. No matter, it might come to us in different ways, but we all, you know, that's what I mean about the consciousness, is we all know that we experience very similar things, even if we experience them in a different way. Yeah. Good servant fat earth shot me awake. Oh yeah, it certainly did me too. And it was very frightening as well, very frightening, because then you suddenly realize, you know, how much responsibility you have for your own thoughts, actions and stuff, and we're in a created environment and there's a purpose for it, all that stuff. And of course that is very frightening, especially if you've spent your life, you know, living a life of debauchery or whatever, these other things, or if you've spent your life blaming other people. It can be a very terrifying revelation to have, this realization that you are ultimately responsible for how you react. But again, as I said, you don't need to be forgiven. No one has to forgive you for your past actions. Just like, you know, you can. It's not for you to forgive other people. It's for you to just understand, to simply understand as an observer that people do things and they do crazy things. There was a story the other day, in fact, some German guy on the Thai news here, some German guy, for whatever reason, I don't know, he had a Thai wife, I suppose, but it was basically, he burnt down his house, set fire to his own house, threw his dog out of a second floor window, and was stabbing himself in the stomach with a machete. I've no idea why, but that's the extent of the madness that can engulf someone, that gets lost on a certain, you know, train of thought. Who knows? I think a lot of the time what I see here is a lot of expats come here trying to run away from problems. You know, they think that changing where they live or where they are, but no, the thing is, they bring the problems are all up here. You don't leave them in a physical place; they come with you. And just, you know, coming to a new place isn't necessarily a solution. It might help. It might put you in a better state of mind in which you can deal with certain things, or it gets you away from the craziness. But ultimately, it doesn't matter where you are or what you're dealing with or who surrounds you, who you are surrounded by. It's still ultimately up to you to get it straight in your head. And I think this is really, really important. You know, no matter whether you're talking about flat Earth or the psychopaths that run this world, the pyramid schemes that we are supporting. It's connecting with consciousness. It's understanding, being an observer of the mind, understanding how consciousness is influenced by the mind, and how the mind is influenced by all these external distractions, and by know exactly what they're doing. Once we see it, once we see the predators hiding behind the trees, then we can much easier walk through the jungle, because and so one trick, I think I remember the people that live with in regions where there are polar bears. If they find themselves walking past a polar bear, then all they do is they put their heads down. They don't make contact, so they don't get involved. They just carry on their path, and they don't disturb the polar bear, and the polar bear doesn't disturb them. Yeah, they just don't make eye contact. Live and let live. And of course, that's what we all want. That's all we want, isn't it? But we've got these psychopaths that just can't help but interfere, and that's all they do. They just interfere all the time. These people get these positions of power, and they interfere. And we know that they get carried away with their own self-importance. Unfortunately, we just have to let them have those experiences that will ultimately help them self-realize that. And this is the way, sometimes you just have to leave the universe up to make its own. Yeah, it's funny, really. It's quite a show, isn't it? Right. Okay, I've got my daughters. Let me just quickly go through this. I've got to help. My daughter's got to do some exercise. Sorry, I might be well behind in the chat, but I'm determined to get through them. Those who will not know the root of evil are not separated from it. The real Jesus, cause and effect. Okay, what's in it? Hang on, let me read that again. Those who will not know the root of evil are not. Okay, yes. Those who not. Yeah. So if you're not aware of it, yes, you're absolutely right. You're just swept away with it. And I think that's it. Ultimately, regardless of any labels or religions or anything like that, if you can ultimately just become aware of awareness, aware of consciousness, then things start working in a different way. You're on a different frequency already. Boomy, don't forget, Nick, our body evolved from a... Oh, right, yes, of course. Yeah, and where are all the evolutionists? Where are all these evolutionists, huh? Why do you think that we need to alter our DNA? If you're confident that we've all evolved over billions of years to become these superhuman beings from single cell organisms, why the hell do you think we need to we've survived all sorts over billions of years, yet we need to have gene altering therapy stuck in our arms? I don't like the word therapy, actually. Gene, whatever, you know what I'm saying. Yeah. Glenn Salch, all motion starts with thought and requires a prime mover. In the natural world, that's God. They try to replace that with gravity, Big Bang evolution, but yes, I like that. Yeah. Good point. Yeah, because you're right, it does. It becomes just balls of mass. And yeah, absolutely. Very much so. Gravity is that kind of replacement for God, the prime mover. But what did you say? Let me just get clear on that. All motion starts with thought and requires a prime mover. Okay, so yeah, the thoughts come. So there's something energetic creating those thoughts, and where does that come from? Yeah. So again, it's still a mystery, isn't it? We can talk about labels and things like that and pretend that we know what we're talking about, but no, we don't. All we can do is kind of describe what we're experiencing, but we cannot really ever know. Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because often what we're battling with here, I'm sure it's the same for most of you, when you finally realize that there is this knowing, isn't it? When you realize that the earth isn't a spinning ball, there is this knowing. You know because your senses tell you. You're now reverting back to listening to your senses, and so you know we're not moving. This is really solid ground. We are not moving, and we are not on some kind of curved surface. We know that instinctively, and it's a wonderful feeling to get back to that knowing. But that isn't, on information from our senses, but it's not the same as knowing all the so-called scientific explanations that go with the heliocentric model. People, I think, are confused about that. There's, you can know a story, like I know the Three Little Pigs or Goldilocks because I read them all the time to my kids. So I know the story, but that doesn't make it the truth, does it? Yeah. So that's, that there's a knowing based on information, or whether it's stuff that's said. So that's a different kind of, or like an education. Okay, you know how to do this, you know how to do that, you know how to navigate on using spherical geometry. Well, I can tell you, I know that you can take Cartesian coordinates from a two-dimensional plane and convert them into spherical geometry if you like. So what? You can You can do that. But I also know that you start off with a level earth, just as we experience it. And so it's pointless arguing with people about knowledge from books, because there's a knowing. There's a knowing when you really get in touch with consciousness, and you know that there is this prime mover, which is separate from the thoughts and everything else that's going on around us. But of course, these ultimately come from thoughts, and it is interesting, isn't it? Because thoughts are not something material, tangible, but everything we have, you know, this table and its design started off with a thought, and it materialized. Yeah, you know, this teapot. Okay, it was a thought once, and it's now a material. So that again, just that simple fact of life is amazing. Really, we've got things coming out of the ether, the prime mover or consciousness, and manifesting in reality through us, through the creators. You know, it's quite fantastic. The Bristolian, dealing with a constant stream of information to process it at lightning speed, living, yes. And of course, that's the thing. You know, you look at you know, have you ever found yourself like scrolling through TikTok or YouTube Shorts for like an hour? You've suddenly lost an hour, completely distracted, and I bet you can't remember what you watched 5 minutes ago. Yeah, but you know, it's like, yeah, that's the thing. We soak up information. We love information, whether we're kids. We love learning, but we can soon get distracted in all of that, and it becomes information. Yeah. So, wow. I'm sorry if I'm ignoring the chat here. Al says, usually waking up is caused by a trauma or pain. This can be, yes, I absolutely, and I think that's the thing, isn't it? We all have to go through this, and that includes these people, the flat Earth deniers, the globe Earth defenders. They are suffering. They're in pain because they have to go on defense, and they have to launch these attacks on us. They have to call names and things like that. So they are very aware of this pain that they would experience. Well, they fear. That's the thing. It's they're experiencing. They're suffering from a fear, an irrational fear, because things do change, and you do have to. Again, it's all down to identity, isn't it? If you have that attachment to identity, so becoming free from those attachments is very frightening, because again, you're having to go along with that realization that you are responsible for your own thoughts and actions, and taking responsibility for them is quite a challenge. Yeah, but I think, yes, you're right. I'm grateful for the trauma. I'm grateful for the pain that we might have been through, the suffering, because we learn from it. If life is all hunky-dory, that's the thing. A lot of these people with a silver spoon in their mouth that do end up joining these clubs that rule the world, unfortunately, they haven't had certain human experiences to make them think in rational ways so but they do become very selfish. But ultimately, we all have some kind of experience that will make us realize that. Yeah, love thy neighbor. Glenn Souch, Nick, what's this? Life is beyond where you live, it's how you live it. We are made to be stewards of the earth, and that's hard to do in a concrete. Oh yeah, I was talking about my friends with that the other day. I think, yeah, if we are of this earth, if you consider God to be earth, and thank you, that's brilliant. Our job, my daughter's just bought me my glasses. Thank you very much for that. Then yeah, maybe our job is to just tend the garden. Hello, Stashman. But it is hard to do in a concrete jungle, isn't it? Yeah. I've never felt comfortable. Yeah. Resistant. If you answer injustice with injustice, you increase the amount of injustice in this world. But if you answer injustice with justice, you increase the amount of Nicely put. Yeah, and of course, yeah, we get confused about what justice is, don't we? Then it's often more like revenge is passed off as justice. Yeah, okay. The eyes can't see if the mind is blind. Nicely put, Stashman. Yes. Okay. Okay. Resistant, good positive vibrations, goodwill towards others are healing for both the body and the soul. So actually in your own yes, you're absolutely right. You are right. It's in our own best interests. Okay. I think I've got to the bottom of the chat now. So I hope I haven't missed anything. Oh my God, we've been going for an hour. I bought myself a whiteboard to go through because I really wanted to try and illustrate this kind of consciousness mind thing. I hope that kind of appeals to some of you, but I think that's, to me, it's always been important to discern the difference here, and that's what this whole flat earth thing is about too. Is being able to see how we see and see how the mind works. Yeah. Forgive my rugged appearance, as I said. That's why I've been digging about in the dirt. Okay, so that's our little veggie patch, and it's getting dark here. So I shall say thank you very much for joining. And it's been a pleasure, and I hope I don't kind of like sound too conceited and kind of like, it's just nice to share some of the experiences and stuff. Yeah, okay, all right. One last thing from Glenn there. All particles are diamagnetic and forms through diamagnetism, which can form. Yes, okay, nice. And yeah, I'd say that's the kind of energy we're in. Okay, so take care, everyone. Let's catch up soon, and have yourselves a great weekend. It's Friday. Go freak out. All right, take care, everyone. Speak soon, yeah? All right, cheers for now.